good idea for a variety of reasons. So, right now it's still pronounced STEM, and then maybe with an H. I don't know. We got to come up with a better way of calling it that. So with Hack for Kids, we do a lot with the kids also in the area of the ethical hacking, the STEM, and then cybersecurity. And we were here today at Circle CityCon. Actually, we were here yesterday at Circle CityCon. We had a whole day event, and we had somebody participated there in the back of the room. Thank you. So when did Hack for Kids get created? When did the idea come about? It was something going on inside of me. Not so much for kids, but this, you kind of get an idea, and it sticks with you, and every day you wake up, you think about it. And then periodically throughout the day, you think about it. And then sometimes before you go to sleep, you think about it. And it was me wanting to create a conference. And I didn't know why. And there was already ThoughtCon going on in Chicago. I'm out of the Chicago area. And it didn't seem to make sense that we'd want any other type of con for hackers. There already was a great con in the town. But when my 10-year-old, who back then was 5, was asking me a lot of technology questions, it then started to give me these ideas. I was on Twitter, and I saw this tweet from 4 people. You may or may not recognize their handle. And they wanted to talk about doing a kids conference in Chicago. And this is something that kind of was in the back of my mind, because I already wrote a children's book on technology for kids like maybe 6 to 8, maybe 9, depending on their level. But they were talking about doing something, and it immediately struck a chord with me. I want to be a part of this, so I tweeted to them, said, hey, love to help out in any way you'd like to accept me. And they came back and said, yep, welcome aboard. We had a few meetings. Things were moving well. And then the ThoughtCon board decided they didn't want to go into doing a kids event, which is fine. But that passion that was like burning and getting ignited, and the flame was being fanned, then suddenly went to a smolder. And I forgot a slide. ThoughtCon, great con. Then I said, why don't we just create one in Chicago? So I spoke with them in email. They were fine with it. So in 2014, we had our first Hack for Kids conference. You can see there one of our staff. He's kind of busy on his phone with something. Great picture. I love it. I don't know if you can recognize the back of Wolfgang Gorlick's head over there, sitting there with his daughter. She was a speaker there. So we were thrilled. It was a big moment to kind of break through that first conference. You got a lot of learning going on, and you're organizing it. You make some mistakes, but we had a good turnout. We had 40 people registered. There was 38 that actually showed up, and we had different tracks, and I'll get into that. But here's some other photos. Here was Benny when he met the homemade hack robot. So it's essentially a galvanized garbage can with a tablet there in front of it with our website. The head was an Arduino. The hat's there to hide the radio controllers. And the kids also were plugged into it so that they could change the face and learn a little bit of Arduino programming. But Benny, terrified of this giant metallic monstrosity in front of him because it was larger, then later noticed if he could see the little clear bucket on the left, it's filled with candy. That helped him overcome his fears. He wanted that candy. So we do things like snap circuits, so we teach them a little bit of IEEE. If you've never heard of snap circuits, it's just kind of like the old crystal radio set, but less springs, less injuries, very safe, a lot of fun, tons and tons of projects. Last year in 2015, we grew from one conference, one location to 4. I'll tell you more about that in a bit. But what we did last year was we took some Arduinos, and we made some custom 3D printed Hack for Kids cases. And the idea of this really kind of came about of my older son when I said, hey, let me show you how to use an Arduino. We got the Blinky sketch going. He looked at it, he goes, oh, that's cool, but can you make it blink Morse code? Sure, let's go figure it out. And I think he was about 9, maybe 8.5, somewhere around there. And we went through the process of turning the light on, turning it off, making it look like a dot, making it look like a dash, and then we just did the letter S, and then, so there's a lot of commands. I go, it's kind of hard to read. So then we made some functions. One was called dot, one was called dash. So then it's like dot, dot, dot. Let's do, dash, dash, dash. I go, well, it's still hard to know what letters they are. He's like, yeah, well, can we do another function? Yeah. So he's starting to do like recursive function calls just by wanting to set up the letters, so when we can read the actual main, it was just like S, paren, O, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then we use it for a scavenger hunt. So we actually put messages in there. So now who knows Morse code off the top of their head? I thought you would. Okay, I thought you would. That's impressive. Ex-military. Very hard to find any civilians that would know that nowadays, unless it was like a hobby and they really wanted to know it. So we thought that was a really fantastic opportunity to start to introduce something like Morse code to them, because it's so important and it's international. It's an international way to communicate. Because we also did this in Belgium, and it completely translated over. We also do something we call the Technology Destruction Village, which is a lot of fun. When I was about 8, like my son Max, who was there, my parents had a piece of television, like a piece of television, that like furniture. It was humongous. And I think it might have been color. I don't recall. We're going into like mid-70s sometimes. And I was curious, because I saw there was this panel with some flathead screws. Let me open this sucker up. So I took off the back panel and I looked inside and I touched one of the tubes and I burned myself. So I just turned the TV off. I didn't think that they had to cool down. But it wasn't bad, so I'm okay. I waited, pulled one out, looked at it, and went, oh crap, how does this go back in? My parents are going to kill me. So I looked at it and I was like, I think this is exactly the right way. So I put it back in and turned the TV on, and it worked. And I was like, okay, I'm never going to do that again. So while that was a really good exploratory moment for me, and I did learn a couple of things. One, wait for the TV to cool off. Two, unplug the TV. I didn't do that either. But there was, my mom or somebody was around somewhere in the kitchen, wherever. But I didn't have anyone who can really guide me. And I felt the immediate panic of punishment if something went wrong. So one of our staff members said, I like to go to Goodwill, and I'll buy some inexpensive tech and let my son take it apart. And if he wants to put it back together, great. And if he doesn't, what does it matter? We paid $2.99 for a VCR, but he gets to see what the inside of a VCR looks like, or a radio, or a remote control, or a Wi-Fi router, or even an old DVD drive. And that was a great idea. And I got to tell you, at first we were like, all right, we'll give it a try. It's one of our most popular areas. The kids love taking the tech apart. They love popping the keys off of a keyboard, seeing the little squishy plastic pad in the middle, and they start to understand that it's just not this magic box that works. And that's kind of part of the goal. They don't get in trouble, and they're allowed to do what they want with it, and they realize, there's really no mystical technology thing. It's math and physics. So what is Hack for Kids as an entity? Well, we are a registered 501c3, so we are a public charity. Our funding is always through some kind of donations. We do stuff with different organizations where we'll have a table. Somebody makes a donation. We thank them with a shirt. We also sell some electronics called Lifelights that are sourced from another gentleman somewhere in the country. I think he's in Kansas. And we can't sell them online, but we usually go to cons and we sell them there. And the difference just goes to supporting the charity. But also we do things like B-Sides Las Vegas, where we're one of the 4 charities that they support. They always have an auction at the end of every year, and that's another great way to get funding. And we have a table to also increase Hack for Kids awareness, because it's an event with over 2,000 people. So it's a great way to get a lot of exposure. And in case anyone wondered, why did we go charity versus maybe kind of doing what some of these other educational facilities do and go full-out education, because we do provide education services, but that's not our core business as far as like a university. We're not that. There's all these other things you need to do. But we are educating. And instead of being like an LLC or an S Corp, we found that when asking for sponsorship, there tends to be some dollars allocated towards supporting education, cybersecurity, and STEM, versus, oh yeah, you got a kids con, here's some money. What's our ROI? What are the parents what are their professions? How many adults? And we didn't want to be a part of that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that just didn't feel comfortable for us. So we partnered with Circle CityCon last year, so that was one of the 4 places where we had our first event in 2015. And it was new to us because instead of it just being a full-on conference, we had to learn how to become a village, which is what we did yesterday, and we seem to kind of got a feel for it now. And the village feel is more of just some tables and a workshop. And then we did an online CTF yesterday, which was something completely new for us because we've always done more of a participatory type CTF where they have to go to stations and do stuff and learn and have challenges, and then they get a card and they get a punch, and that's an entry into a drawing, and then they get prizes at the end because we found that providing incentive, you get better results. And all those prizes come from sponsorship, donation, and the whatnot. For example, No Starch Press donated 8 books yesterday. So 8 kids left with books. We had about 12 there at the raffle at the end of the day. But we had about 22 kids go through yesterday. So some just didn't go there. They had other plans or whatnot. But thank you, Circle CityCon. Last year, we also partnered with BrewCon. So if you're familiar with that conference in Brussels, actually in Ghent now, they moved from Brussels. Those folks, I met them going to B-Sides Las Vegas, and they like, yeah, we've been wanting to do this for years. We just don't really know how to get it started. And you want to partner up with us? So then we started this model of, well, we got Chicago as our main event, but when we partner with other conferences, parents are going to go there. Parents are going to want to bring their family. They want to be with their family. My family's with me. And it gives them an opportunity to give the kids something to do instead of sitting and talk after talk, and the kids are bored and they're on screens, and it's not always a bad situation, but it might not be ideal. So we provide those services. And BrewCon, they kind of adopted the model of what we're looking for of we go there and we educate, teach them how the program works, and then they've been running with it. They come up with some fantastic ideas, and periodically they hit me up and go, can we have a call? We want to just go through some of these ideas that we have with you. We want to maybe use your logo. We changed the robot Tinker, which is the robot you saw every year. It's our mascot. And that's all trademarked, so, all with permission, they could use it. And they're doing well. They've got their event scheduled for this year already for October 23rd. We've also partnered with GERCON out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And that's an event where I've been speaking at for a number of years and getting to know the organizers. They're like, yeah, because I've been pestering them for years beforehand. When are you going to do KidsCon? When are you going to do KidsCon? And then we created Hack for Kids, and then they're like, you do it. So, happily. So we have a really good relationship with them. They give us another big area of space, almost as big as this. I think it's a little bigger, because it feels like it's bigger. And then we have our own area, and it's all secured off, and we have our own security staff that know who the parents are, and making sure that if the parents are dropping the kids off, it's the same parent or some kind of ID code that picks them up. And we actually had an issue there last year where I think it was like the dad dropped the kid off and then the mom went to pick him up, and we're like, you're not on the list. Nobody told us this was going to happen. We could be flexible, but we don't know what's going on. And we do know other things, a lot of times abductions or people that you know in the family, and it could just be some domestic dispute. We don't want to be in the middle of that. We have our rules. That's that. Take your problem and figure it out on your own. So we love GERCON. We're going to be there again on October 7th this year, on a Friday. Oh, I almost forgot. Who was here for the keynote on Monday with Dave Lewis or Gattaca? Great speaker, great guy. He runs B-Sides Toronto. He also is on the advisory board for Sector. Yep. I met him about a year ago, and we talked about this, and we had it approved just about the time of NOLACOM, which was a couple weeks ago. The Sector board said, yeah, we want to do something with you. We're going to give you some money. We're going to, Dave will help you find a venue. I don't want to name names, but there's an accounting and consulting firm that already kind of through a third person said they'd be willing to do this, so I'm trying to organize that. So we're really excited, and the date for that is October 16th. And we've already had, my wife has a really good friend who lives there in Toronto, whose kids are also complete nerds and tech geeks like ours, and they're thrilled, and they're a part of a whole community there. So I'm expecting Toronto to be a really big event for kids. When I say big, it's north of 50. It's hard to get a lot of kids there. So we're very thrilled about that. Now, maybe at this point, you're like, this sounds pretty good. I want to help out. I want to be a part of this. We're pretty selective. And it's not because we think we're elitist. We're doing it for the safety and the protection of the kids. So there is a Google form. I still need to finish going beyond what your name is in real life. But the form process is kind of like this would be like the first step in the process. Typically, we work off of a model of if somebody on the board knows you more than, oh yeah, Bob, I met him at Circle City Con the past 3 years, but I've never seen him before. But he's pretty cool. He wants to be a volunteer. You should take him. Nobody seems to really know Bob. And Bob might be a great guy, but child safety is our number one thing at Hack for Kids. We arm them with all weapons at all times, just in case. No, that's my other kid. He missed his 15 minutes of fame. So, seriously, the whole model, we do other things. We have con marshals, so there's somebody who's registered as an adult that we know and trust, and they're there with their kid, but only myself and the head of security knows who that person is. We take them to the side before the event and says, hey, by the way, can you help us out? We want you to be a con marshal, but that doesn't mean if you see something going on that's suspicious, you go and grab their legs and tackle them. It just means you get a red shirt and you have somebody go and help them, take care of it properly. We don't want you to be in the middle of it. And some of that training comes from Boy Scouts. So if you're familiar with scouting, I'm a scouter. I've been a scouter for about 5 years. So that means youth protection training or YPT, Too Deep Leadership. So some of those types of procedures and standards we've adopted, but with some modifications because it's still a different scenario. It's on this kind of venue. It's not in a home or a car or a park or a campsite. It's different, and there's adults and there's alcohol and there's other things going on. So we kind of enforce it a little differently, but it comes from those kinds of roots. Because like I said, we don't want anyone to be a volunteer that just signs up on a page. We bring them there. They seem like they're a really nice person, and then it becomes something that we need to deal with. And if you're familiar with this community, it's highly meritorious, but when you make a mistake, everybody talks about it. And even if it's not exactly how it went down. So we do this intentionally. We want to make sure there's safety. One of the ways that we do safety is you can see we have a photo here. So the photographers are instructed that it's primarily over-the-shoulder shots. So I don't know who this tyro is. We call them tyros. It's a word that means learning and student. They're doing something with snap circuits. He has the Arduino scavenger hunt in front of him. Maybe he worked on that. But nobody other than close family can recognize the hair and ear. No idea. Maybe the hand. And here's another one of a tyro. There's adult hands helping with glue gun. We did something with catapults last year. But with the curly hair, a boy or a girl? You could make a guess. 50-50 shot. But we know that person, so we know we know who we know the gender or his gender, but you don't know who he is and what he looks like. Right? You just see a nice picture of somebody learning some engineering and a parent helping him. It's okay that you know he's a boy. We also try to come up with some fun badge. This year, we tried to do something for Circle City Con. Timing, production, and designing issues didn't work out, but last year we did 3D printed badges because 3D printing is just so fun and so cool these days, and you can make all kinds of different stuff. But we're like, let's make a badge, and we kind of came across this design by accident. But what you could see in the badge that stands out is the location on the bottom and the year. The kids' badges were all white. Staff was red. We had black for just some other people that were on the board. But there's the glider. You know the glider right there in the center? It's the hacker symbol. The other thing is you might see this arrow pointing downward. It's actually the tyro symbol. I don't know if you guys noticed it. It was on the badge this year. It was kind of hidden. Kind of made a really small version of it. What the tyro symbol means, it's for the kids. It's their symbol if they go to Hack for Kids. And only their badges had that symbol. The arrow is really the Nordic symbol for Tyr, T-Y-R, which stands for like strength and warrior. And then the circle completes the word tyro, but it also represents unity. So there's unity within the hacker community, but it also represents the hacker's never-ending desire to learn and to keep moving technology further and to not accept it for what it is. We don't just take and go, that's great. I want to poke at it a little bit, turn it on its end, see what happens. Nice. So, why would we want to do Hack for Kids? And you kind of understand a little bit. Turn the volume off now. And where else have we been? So, there's already Roots Asylum, formerly known as DEF CON Kids, which was another sort of catalyst or another log on the campfire of me wanting to do a kids con, because I went there and I met an 8-year-old, mom was next to him, and he did a little solder project. And I told my son, who back then I think was 7, he's not here now, he was like, oh my God, I want to go. And for me, because I do so many different things, I'm working, I've got other activities, late nights, I'm actually doing business at the parties, and it wouldn't be fair to him to be up late, and I didn't really want to leave him behind in a hotel, because he won't know how to find me in case he needs me. And I know there's other ways around that, but it just didn't feel right for me. Not that there's anything wrong with bringing your kids to Vegas, but Roots is a great event for families that do want to go there, or they live there, and to attend this. They're out of Vegas, right? And then there's Hack Kid, who was formerly in San Jose. The organizer of that moved to the Carolinas. I think he's in North Carolina or South Carolina. Now that changes things, right? Because is the event going to follow him, or is somebody else going to take over? What's going to happen? And the only information I have is based on their website, and it doesn't look like they're going to do anything anymore. But the two main things that these groups have in common is they were very West Coast based. Being from New York and living in Chicago, kind of really wanted to broaden it out a lot further. I'm going to zoom in a bit, but you can see, like, Circle City Con, you know where you are, Grand Rapids, and then BrewCon. But now we have, if I redo this map, I can add in, I can add in Toronto. We've talked to people in Dallas. We've talked to people in Atlanta. Just things haven't been solidified. We really want to start going out further. East Coast has been really interesting. There are some people who want to do it, but they're all too busy, and nothing ever goes further than that. But it seems like in the Midwest and in the South, people are really into having like a kids event. So if you know anybody that runs an event now, like we've already spoken to NOLACon, so in Louisiana. So hooray, we're going to be like down here next year. We've already got the thumbs up. We're going to start planning that in a couple of months or so, but for 2017. So we keep growing. We've already talked to CypherCon. We're going to be in Milwaukee. Again, it's still very concentrated in North Central, but we want to branch out further. Now, who is Hack for Kids? So more of like, you got a sense of what we do, but here we're going to go a little deeper into some of the things that we do there. So we have this speaking track. We have activity stations, and this is the example of the popsicle stick catapult. And then we have workshops, and getting deeper into each of those. Oh, and we generally do the Safe and Secure Online presentation from ISC Squared. They're in some transitions right now. They've changed their name. They're redoing some of the material, so we kind of held back on doing that yesterday here, just because, we could have done the old material, but the kids are having a great time with the CTF, and we just kind of wanted them to continue with doing that, so we made that decision. But we're going to continue doing that. It's always something that we always do once we understand what the new material is from them. So here we have our first keynote, Ruben Paul last year. He gave this great presentation on, in order to be a better white hat hacker, you got to understand the black arts, or the black hat. And he put it in this whole Star Wars context, which was great, using like Lego Star Wars characters. And then he broke into an Android tablet to kind of show how you can get remote shell pretty easily on these things. So it was a great presentation. Kids were very inspired. I think he was 9 when he delivered that. If you haven't heard of Reuben Paul, there's a lot of information on him now. So the activity stations, this is one where they built a popsicle stick. We had a picture of it. There were some other engineering challenges where they couldn't see in the picture and they had to figure out how to do certain things. And they had rubber bands and a plastic spoon and they built it. And it did not have to be what was in the picture. They came up with some better designs and some not so better designs, but they still worked. And then something unexpected happened and it was fantastic. They started to test their build. They balled up little pieces of paper and they had contests who could shoot the ball of paper further. They didn't take into account how crunched up it was and the size of it and all the other mass factors. So it was not a very fair competition, but it was great that they now are testing their engineering, right? So they're getting that kind of process into them. The other things that we do are, like last year we did Python for kids. So teaching kids how to code an introductory level with Python. And yes, we did get approval from No Starch Press to use that name because they have a book called Python for Kids. We've done things with Technology Destruction Village, Snap Circuits, oh boy, I'm getting a blank here. Oh, crypto, spy math. Big thing for the kids when they're doing crypto and they're learning how to do it. It's amazing how some of them just kind of see how simple some of the math is, and then when they learn that there's tools online, they go deep. But it's learning the terminology, it's getting into that and understanding the difference between base 64 and hex and some kind of simple cipher that's monoalphabetic, like maybe a Caesar cipher, or we've done things with Arabesh. You know what Arabesh is? I got one head nod. The Star Wars language, when it was originally created, it really had absolutely no meaning. It was just gibberish, but then somebody took the symbols and made a language. So we did that, and there's online tools, and we encoded with that really for frequency analysis, but they had a lot of fun because they're like, this looks like Star Wars, and it gets them engaged. So we really try to use the idea of playing and learning together, because they're wired to learn, and we really want to take advantage of that at their young age. So give them something to play with, but if they're learning, they'll continue to do it. We do a lot of other activity stations, but I just want to catch up on time a little bit. Oh, here, this is the STEM station, and because of the scouting routes, one of the things, if you're familiar with the STEM Nova program with the BSA, Boy Scouts of America, we also put in references for this particular activity, so if a scout was there, their parents can take note that they've completed some activity that they needed to complete in order to, achieve or advance in that area. The workshops, think of them as like, the activity station's like 10 to 15 minutes, but they're welcome to stay there all day if they want. The workstations are more like 2 to 4 hours of concentrated learning. So here, Beltface is teaching Web Hacking Exposed, the Bounty Hunter edition. So just slapping on a picture of Boba Fett with his gun rifle pointing at them, but explaining what the course is going to do. Sold out very quickly, a couple of weeks, done. The other one that we're doing again, it's somebody else is doing the training, but a different perspective on web hacking. That one's also filled up. But you can see there, they're hacking and they're having a lot of fun. Other workshops were build your own Minecraft server. We wanted them to learn Linux. They wanted to play Minecraft. I was going to say Minecraft server. Play Minecraft. Put the two together, and you got a Reese's peanut butter cup. They did not pay me to say that. But it tastes great together because now they're learning Linux. They're having fun. They're using a really solid operating system that's pretty dominant nowadays if you're going to do anything on the internet. And there's Minecraft. And maybe they'll want to learn how to do Minecraft dev, right? Learn Java or how to use Python to extend Minecraft, which you could do as well. A lot of fun stuff. Oh, this year we're doing learn how to make your own iOS app. So now we're actually doing Xcode dev. That's also sold out. It's pretty good. I'm very excited about that. Our keynote in Chicago, Austin Valesky, he was featured on the news a little over a year ago. Quick story. He was 14. He watched his brother build a web page. And he was like, well, you might want to move that button here or change this. So he realized he had this internal design capability. Like very quickly he was like, this is not how people want to process a UI. And his brother was appreciative. His brother, I think, was 18 going into college or something. I might have that wrong, but he was a few years older. Then Austin started doing this on his own, started to learn how to write in Xcode, would hang out in some chat room, and another young man in Australia, whose name I can't remember, but I just saw a piece on him in the news, who is starting his own company, and they're predicting that this young man will be a billionaire before he's 21, which is pretty cool. I just got chills on that. But that young man sent a video to Austin and said, I got an idea for a game, but I don't know how to build it. And have you ever heard of Impossible Rush? Impossible Rush last year was like number 16 in the Apple App Store. Ahead of Netflix, ahead of Tinder, ahead of all those other apps that are really popular. And he built it one Saturday afternoon. Yeah, I keep getting chills talking about this young man. He's 16 now. He lives in the Illinois area. We're thrilled to have him as our keynote. But then the idea came upon me. Imagine you're 10 years old, 12, whatever, and you hear Austin's keynote and how he did all this stuff. He's been flown out to Apple and Google. He does consulting for a company in Israel. It's hard to get hold of him because of that. So he's a high school student, and he's got a consulting job. Very, very impressive. And I go, Austin, would you be open to doing a workshop in the afternoon after your keynote? Because I got this idea that, I like to put myself into other people's shoes and just kind of get things from their perspective. And if I was a 10-year-old kid, and I saw you give this presentation, and I was inspired, because I'm a 40-something-year-old man, or kid, my wife would say I'm a kid, excuse me, and I got inspired from his presentation, I would want to learn how to make an iPhone app. But when I go home, and my parents have a PC, and the Xcode has to run on a Mac. Mac OS X, it will not run on a PC or any Windows version, or even Linux. So I'd get really disappointed. I'd ask my parents to buy me a Mac. They're going to look at the price. They're going to say no, or they might have one. It might be underpowered. They won't let me touch it for work, whatever. And then all of that inspiration goes away. So we decided that this would be a good idea, and he agreed. So now they'll see him give that presentation in the afternoon, actually do it. They'll actually be able to build an iOS app. It's going to be like a calculator or something, but it doesn't matter. They're going to see what it takes. Awesome. So, quick example with the Python for Kids station. I'm going to go quick through this part. But we just began it with the assumption that they've never seen coding before. Where do you begin? Hello, world. And then we kind of moved on to there about lists and drawing shapes. And they had to do the exercises. Then we went on to some challenges. Now, once they've done exercises, that doesn't really count towards the CTF. They have to do a challenge. And the first challenge was Dizzy Turtle, and that was right really out of the Python for Kids book. And they had to figure out, we're getting a lot of static or feedback. That was right out of the book, and it's essentially a for loop. So let them learn how to draw with a for loop. Just increasing. Then we started up the difficulty, create some lists, what are your favorite things, maybe go to a grocery store, how to merge lists, and then the Fibonacci series. So we figured that would be a fun math project for somebody, or exercise, for somebody who's a bit more advanced. Now, one of the things we try to do is, on our website, we have a library. Definitely need to update it, but we want to take content from prior presentations and activities and put it online. And this week, actually yesterday, is another example of how we're going to have dynamic content, or more dynamic content, because we have the online CTF at ctf.hackforkids.com. Anyone can do it. Obviously, there's certain things like physical challenges, like the lock picking, but if you want to introduce somebody you know, even an adult, to rotation ciphers, or hexadecimal, base 64, analyzing p-caps. We had some OS-int stuff, and it was a theme based on Game of Poems. We included all of that stuff. It's open. We're going to keep it open for a couple more weeks. Then we're going to release the one for Chicago. It'll have a different theme. Similar kinds of challenges with different flags. A lot of fun. But even those crypto challenges right there, people come up to me like, well, we want to do something like this, but we know you're busy or you can't get out there, but we want to do something really quick. Crypto challenges. Take all of them, print them out, laminate them, and it's everything from binary conversion. I know. I got to switch. Right.
That would be the thing.
Thank you, sir. It's off. I muted it. So to binary conversions, to like the Dancing Man cipher, Pigpen, a lot of fun stuff. It's all in there. And thank you, Iron Geek. So with the snap circuits, Elenco's based out of Wheeling, Illinois, literally the next town over from where we live. I got to go to their warehouse and their manufacturing facility. That was exciting for me. That was really cool. And they donated our first conference a whole bunch of kits. We've then gotten like a case to keep them because the boxes are starting to get a little worn out. And we gave out some of these as prizes. And the first year we had the 500 project kit. That was about $150 retail or more. So you can imagine you go to an event, you pay about $40, you get a shirt, you get a badge, you get a meal, and then there's prizes. And, one of the parents left and was like, thanks for doing this, because my kid's been nagging me all day to buy snap circuits. When I saw the price, it was going to be like a holiday gift. And now, this was phenomenal. Thank you. So we do a lot of that stuff. And yesterday we had 12 kids at the raffle, or Tyros, and we had 22 prizes to give away, including gift cards and books and Kana kits and Kano kits and a virtual Minecraft server. Pretty cool stuff. They were very happy. So the books, I mentioned the books. Arduinos, we gave those away last year. And we gave away, it was an Arduino Uno. Oh no, it's a Dualia Nova. The DC DarkNet badge, to get that badge, you have to go to DEF CON. They don't have very many of them. And the DC DarkNet folks, you can go to dcdark.net. It's an online gaming engine, but they also have a hardware challenge. It's a soldering kit project, and they donated to us, I think it was 10 of these kits, which was great. And the kids love it because even though it's like a $25 kit, when you look at, I got to go to DEF CON, you got to fly there, I need to sleep someplace, I've got to eat once in a while, and to get into DEF CON this year, it's $240. This was not that, that's not the badge, but the DC DarkNet badge, yeah, there it is. It was a high-valued item for these kids. They wanted it because when we told them that the Arduino chipset could be programmed into a TV Be Gone, and we explained to them what a TV Be Gone is, they lost their minds. It was just like, you go to a restaurant with your parents and there's a TV and it's really loud, you can push some buttons and it goes off. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah. So it's really pretty cool. And the badges do a lot more than that. They talk to each other. There's crypto challenges. Good times. All right. So how do we know Hack for Kids is successful? We're actually at the last bit of this. Yeah, we're doing okay. So with the Safe and Secure program, it's really hard. It's really hard to know what's going on because they're going to be online. There's nobody over their shoulder other than maybe their parent, more than likely a sibling. They're at school. There's really no way about getting feedback unless people communicate with us. And I can tell you, even in our home, our kids are victims of cyberbullying. And they know what to do when they're being bullied or other kids are being bullied. And we were very proud to see our older son defending his younger brother being picked on by his classmates' friends online who are in a completely different country on a Minecraft server. It's a problem. And the reaction to that instinctively is pure anger and retaliation. But we can't because that's not teaching them anything. Because you're like, you messed with my kid, you messed with my family. But, his reaction wasn't the best reaction. He got a bit angry and damaged his computer. But we do appreciate that he stood up for his brother. So I think some of this is starting to because he sat through 8 of these presentations and he knows what to do. But we're emotional creatures, and once our emotions get the best of us, it's hard to sometimes maintain reason. So, it's just something to just keep reminding kids not to react to a point where they're going to react to you, and the real problem is somewhere else. And you don't want it to be with you guys and them. We want to help them and continue to encourage them to make the right choices. One of the other things we do are surveys. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit on this. Nope. Come on. They changed the UI on Prezi. Okay, there it goes. Excuse me. So surveys are difficult, but they're somewhat effective in getting feedback from people. What's difficult about them is the wording of your question, how people answer the questions, and then the normalization of the data. And it's really hard to normalize it without actually going back to every individual person. Classic example is the top line says, how many kids attended? Or how many Hack for Kids attended? So when I wrote that, and it said including this one, circle 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, at that point we've only had our third Hack for Kids, And when I wrote that, I intended it to mean how many Hack for Kids has your kid gone to, but I didn't want to make it too wordy. So my wife understood that as, well, how many people have attended? But when I asked my 10-year-old, or 9 back then, he understood it as the way I wrote it. So it's the interpretation. It's not like one person's right or one person's wrong. It's the way they read the written word. So I learned to be a bit more explicit, and also kind of test these things on other people because they read it a little differently. And one person understood it the same way my wife did, and they wrote the number 4 in and circled it. That wasn't an option, but they made it as 1. So it's, again, the normalization of the data is very difficult. So if they had 4 kids there and they did one survey, I'm sure that's not a pure representation of every one of their 4 kids. There might be juxtapositions, but it's not a mean. It's more of, we want to know exactly what they think. So again, it's very difficult to do surveys well. Child age ranges, we never ask ages. There's COPA laws, which are not applicable to us because we're a charity, but we still want to adhere to them. We still want to use that as a best practice. So we ask for ranges, and we got some interesting data on that soon. And then we just want to know a little bit about gender. But even, like, for example, down here, I don't know if you could read it, sorry. But there was things about different presentations and workshops. Well, you could only go to one workshop, and people were circling both lines. They couldn't go to both. So I don't know which one's right. You got it, right? It's difficult. Oh, thank you, Prezi. So this is my attempt at creating an infographic. I know it's not the best looking infographic, but it's good information. So when we looked at the participants in 2015, this is much more specific to the Chicago event. We had 53 participants. There's the gender breakdown above. But of that breakdown, you can see 36 boys attended one before, 12 girls. I'm sorry, that was their first one, and 12 girls, that was their first one. 2 and 2, was their second Hack for Kids, and 1 kid had gone to all 3. No surprise, it was our oldest son. He was there at all 3. And then you can see some age ranges, and we found that our sweet spot really is 8 to 12, even though we're open from ages 7 to 17. We decided to lower the bar a little bit on the age, just by 1 year, because we found that some kids that are homeschooled, they'll be going into 3rd grade, but they might be 7. So we wanted to make Hack for Kids available to them as well, because it's not so much an age, it's a little bit of maturity, but it's kind of aptitude and passion for technology. Some of the most popular areas, you could see right there on the left, Technology Destruction Village. But so who doesn't like to take tech apart, right? I do. You heard my story. I'm sure you guys may to some degree. But interestingly, most attended was the Lockpick Village. Because who doesn't like to pop a lock or even a handcuff for the first time, right? It's a lot of fun. And even you can see here, there's like there's a Tyro's face. It's like all blurred out, so you guys can't see his face. So at the LPV, we had 28 kids attend, and you could see there we had, looked like 12 were able to pop up to 5 pins. 1 person only popped like 5 pin, and that was it. 6 pin, we had up to 6 kids, and you could see only 1 kid just pop 1 6 pin. It's like, they didn't even do 1 to 5. They went to 6, and that's kind of where they stopped. It was interesting. And then on the handcuffs, 9 kids also were able to unlock handcuffs, but 1 kid just popped handcuffs and moved on to something else. So we don't know what that means, and we hope it doesn't mean like they're going to try to figure out how to escape from crime in the future. Kind of put a little pun in there, which I really don't believe it does. But it's just interesting behavior of what the kids did. Maybe they did that and go, I don't know. Maybe they tried a 1 pin and they couldn't get it, and their hands were cramped, and they just kind of moved on. For NetSec, there were 9 kids who attended, and of the 9, they did all the exercises. Every single exercise that we had for them, using Wireshark, understanding Wi-Fi, looking packets, following the TCP stream, they all did that. And then in the hidden file challenge, 7 of 9 were actually able to figure that one out, which was a link back to our website to an image, and then in the image there was something hidden, and then they were able to like, yeah, you did it. Python for Kids, 10 kids attended. All 10 did every exercise. And then getting up to exercise number 3, only 2 kids solved the second hardest challenge. Unfortunately, nobody was able to figure out this Fibonacci series. But then there wasn't a column for like attempted and completed, so we don't know how many attempted. And that's, again, another challenge with surveys. So we're trying to come up with a way to get more data. Spy math, which is crypto, because you can go to a kid and say, hey, do you want to learn how to decode numbers and, learn elliptical curve algorithms and stuff? And they'll be like, I don't know what you're saying, and that sounds boring. But if you say, you want to learn some spy math? Yeah. And then you teach them Pigpen and things like that, and then they want to send hidden messages to one another so their parents can't read it. But in the 12 kids that attended the spy math section, or activity station, 7 of 12 did 7 of 8 of the exercises and challenges. 2 kids, 8 years old, the gentleman that ran that section, Parker, he's here doing some other stuff with Net Thunder. He taught proofs to 2 8-year-olds. Parker's like a mathematical genius, but that was not on the program. It was just kind of go through some other stuff, like eeny, miny, mo, and number theories and stuff, because that's like a number theory. But he saw they wanted to learn proofs, and he taught them. I think that's phenomenal, because they went beyond what anyone in their school thinks they can do. That's what we're about. Technology Destruction Village, 14 kids attended. 5 of them were able to identify all 7 components, and all of them were able to identify a capacitor, which is really pretty cool because they're so tiny nowadays. Oh, and these are some of the comments. You can read these for yourself. We're just about done here, which is good. You the next speaker? Or? Oh, okay. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great event. We have a lot of fun doing it. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of asking people for help, asking people for sponsorship. It's a lot of asking. It's a lot of giving. And, thank you for giving me your time today. We've reached the top of the mountain in the Prezi. I do want to, again, thank you folks for attending. And I probably didn't say my name at all because it's not about me, but I'll just tell you on the end, my name's Dave Schwartzberg. I go by Heel is my handle, and thank you for attending Hacking the Next Generation, the Cyber Frontier. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of the con.